everybody? Welcome back to the Progressive Vibe podcast. I'm your host, Dottie, and I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of you guys' busy schedule to come vibe with me. And before we get into today's conversation, if you haven't already, please take a second to like the video, subscribe to the Progressive Vibe, and however you listen to TBV, whether that's here on YouTube, on your favorite podcast platform, maybe you're somebody who just catches the clips on social media, please share with somebody. That would be great. Every like, every comment, every share, all of that helps put more eyeballs on what we're trying to do over here. And that's what I'm really trying to build here at the Progressive Vibe. You know, a place where, we can talk about politics, we can talk about policy, we can disagree. Okay, cool. That's fine. But let's at least have a real conversation about what's affecting everyday people. I don't want to lose that. And what are the issues that are plaguing people's everyday life? And so, because, regardless of what politicians do or whether they have you to believe, politics is actually supposed to be about the people. It's not supposed to be about self-enrichment. It's not supposed to be about legalized bribery. It's not supposed to be about corporate power. It's supposed to be about the people, because the people make all this shit run. Okay. So on that note, let's get into it, shall we? Because, I've been thinking about something, guys, and the more I watch what's happening politically in this country, the more I keep coming back to it. And that's fear is very profitable. And, there are people who have figured out that if they can keep you afraid, they can keep your attention. And if they can keep your attention, they can keep you angry. And if they can keep you angry, they can probably keep your vote. Just keeping it 100. And there's always somebody we're supposed to be afraid of, whether that's immigrants, whether that's trans people, whether that's liberals or conservatives or people that live in cities or people that live in rural America. Somebody who looks different from you, somebody who worships differently than you, somebody who lives differently than you, there's always somebody. You know what I mean? And I'm going to say this plainly. I think Donald Trump and today's Republican Party have become extremely effective at this. When things aren't going the way that they were promised for people, find somebody to blame. Find another enemy. Find that thing that gets everybody mad. And then maybe, just maybe, people won't ask the obvious question like, what have you done for me? That's the obvious question here, guys. Because here's where I have a problem. Republicans have the White House. Republicans control the House. They control the Senate. So at some point, you think that you have to govern. You can't campaign forever. Everything's not a slogan. You know what I mean? And so you can't keep running against Joe Biden, for example. Joe Biden's been out of office now for years. Okay, it's time that ship has sailed and then some. You can't keep blaming the Democrats for everything. And also vice versa. I'm going to keep that same energy with the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party take their voters for granted. Say all the right things, but when it's time for you to actually implement the things that you're talking about, you fall short on a lot of them. You disregard what the grassroots base of your party, the grassroots voters of your party actually want the party to stand for. And the corporate wing does not seem to fall in line or to fall equally to the needs of the Democratic voter, which is the whole point of a party trying to get voters to literally vote so they can remain in power and et cetera. But the problem lies in that corporations are replacing people. So usually a politician can talk to a CEO of a large corporation, maybe fund their campaign, maybe give them a little bit extra on the side. Then it's pretty much, well, damn my constituency. I done already made hundreds of thousands of dollars, in some cases, millions of dollars, and sure, I'm going to go back to my state and hold like town halls and blame it on somebody else and make it seem like we were so close. And so if you vote for me again and reelect me, then I promise you that we'll get one step closer. Like, it's always an endless cycle of bullshit. And that's for the Democratic Party and that's for the Republican Party. That's why I appreciate the new class of Democrats that's seeming to come in now, the progressive wing of the party, where the energy and the messaging and the turnout is there within the party. The status quo Democrats can't ignore this anymore. There's an obvious answer that is there, and that answer is acceptance. You have to accept the voters in your party and what the overall messaging is, the overall wants, the ambitions, the mission statement. And that's to go back to common sense politics that centers around the average working American, their needs, their priorities. Populist message. That's what it comes down to. And the Republican Party is going to learn that eventually too. All of this creating this fear mongering, it's going to run its course and it's going to get played out just like what the corporate Democrats are experiencing right now in their party. That messaging is going to run out. Democrats just can't blame Donald Trump. Well, if you don't elect us, then you're going to get somebody like Trump or you're going to get Trump again or whatever like that. People don't give a damn about that. People want actually concrete things to help materialistically improve their conditions of living. Point blank. Stop playing with people's votes. Stop playing with people's emotions. The American people are not idiots. They see what's going on. And what's going on is both parties seem to be playing in our faces. So which section of either party is going to come out and actually listen to the needs of their voting bloc? You're seeing that within the Democratic Party. And again, I'm an independent, but I'm going to call it like I see it. And what I see is the wing that seems to be having the most common sense and the most populist message and policies that are driven towards their constituency needs is the progressive wing. The Republican Party is still captured in MAGA. And until that phase runs its course, then right now the Republican Party is the MAGA party. That's just what it is. And the MAGA party isn't doing anything but diving into culture war shit, distractions, conspiracies. I'm not with it. I need constructive policies, implementation that's going to actually improve people's livelihoods. People have lives to live. They shouldn't have to be subjected to political theater within our government on both sides of the aisle. It's quite frankly embarrassing and shameful. And yes, it does piss me off because it should not be like this. And so again, you're in charge. And when you're in charge, the responsibility comes with the power. That's the deal. That's the deal. So while everybody's fighting about whatever the outrage of the week happens to be, I want to ask something much simpler. How are you doing? Seriously. How are you doing? How's that grocery bill looking? How's your rent? How's your mortgage? If you're lucky to have a mortgage in this disastrous economy. How's your insurance? How much does it cost for you to fill up your car or your truck? How much are you paying for healthcare? How much money is actually left after your paycheck hits the bank? Literally, because that's the conversation I want to have. Some people are out here working 2 jobs and some people are out here working full time and then doing DoorDash or Uber afterward. Some people are donating plasma because they need another $100 just to get through the week. People are doing what they have to do, so I can't blame them. They're literally doing what they have to do to survive. And meanwhile, Washington keeps finding another culture war for us to fight. And I'm sitting here thinking, why isn't this the emergency? You know what I mean? Why isn't affordability the emergency? Why isn't healthcare the emergency? Why isn't the fact that somebody can work a full-time job and still struggle to survive considered? Why isn't that considered a national emergency? That's what bothers me because eventually fear doesn't pay the bills. You can't pay your rent with outrage. You can't buy groceries with a culture war. You can't put gas in your car with somebody's latest angry social media post. Eventually the government is going to have to govern. And I guess honestly that brings me to the economy because politicians love telling us about the economy, about the fucking stock market, the GDP, corporate profits. Like, okay, that's not the economy most people experience every day. You want to know where people experience the economy? At the register. You walk into Walmart or Publix or Aldi, wherever you shop, you put the same things in your cart you've been buying for years, and somehow that cart costs more. That's your economy. Your landlord tells you the rent's going up. That's your economy. Your insurance premium changes. That's your economy. Your electric bill comes in higher than you expected. That's your economy. You look at your paycheck Friday morning or whenever you get paid, and before that money even hits your account, it's already gone. That's your economy. And recent polls show Americans are still deeply worried about exactly these things, about healthcare, about food, about housing, about gas, about electricity. These aren't luxury items. These are things people need to live. And that's why I get so frustrated when politicians starts telling people how great everything is, because you can't talk somebody out of their bank account. You just can't do it. You can't tell somebody, no, you're actually doing great while they're trying to, while they're sitting there trying to figure out which bill they're going to pay late this month. People know what they are experiencing. And to give you receipts on that, let me share with you this Pew Research that I found was very striking and should alarm, well, it should. I was going to say it should alarm Washington, our government, at least the current constructed government that we have now does not give two shits. So I'm not going to read all of this and bore you guys too much with this, but this is, again, one of the most trusted researching polls in the entire country, the Pew Research Center. And it says Americans' evaluations of the economy remain negative. 6 in 10 now say Trump's economic policies have made the economy worse. And honestly, it's no shock. It's no shock, guys. The only people that's doing good in this damn economy is the ultra wealthy. And it says Americans remain in a sour mood about the economy. Roughly a quarter, 24% rate economic conditions in the country today as excellent or good, while 41% says they are only fair and 35% describe them as poor. Those are atrocious numbers. If you go down, it says the recent drop is primarily driven by a shift among Republicans and Republican leaning independents. 41% now rate the economy as excellent or good, down from 49% in January. Just 10% of Democrats and Democratic leaners rate the economy positively, essentially unchanged since early in President Donald Trump's term. Right here it says a new Pew Research Center survey conducted among over 3,500 U.S. adults also finds the Americans are less likely than they were in January to expect the economy to improve over the course of next year. That's sad. People already know. The American people already know ain't shit happening good for them in this economy this year, next year. And if you go down, it says these come as Americans remain concerned about the cost of healthcare, housing, food, and energy. Concerns about gas prices in particular have risen sharply since January before the U.S. military action against Iran. And we know how that's going. U.S. gas prices had declined somewhat prior to the survey's field period, but has risen steadily in recent weeks as military actions have escalated in the region and the price of crude oil has risen. I mean, we know, again, how this disastrous, unnecessary, provoked war that started by Israel and the United States. And it's not doing anybody justice. It's not helping anybody. It's just putting more of a financial burden on the American people. plain and simple. People are already struggling financially, and then we are in this endless war that President Donald Trump campaigned that he was going to keep us out of. And he's doing the opposite of that. His gas prices have eclipsed Biden's gas prices. So now you can't just say, well, Biden had high gas prices and Trump kept them low. Trump has eclipsed Biden's gas prices. They're even higher. Nobody's saying anything about that. We're not going to say anything about that. I live here in Alabama. I can't tell you when Joe Biden was president how many magnet stickers I seen on gas pumps of Biden saying I did that, meaning that the gas prices were high. And a lot of American people were feeling that. They had, where's the magnets for Trump? You don't see them nowhere. You don't see them nowhere down here. And I just think that that's very hypocritical. And that's really what this whole circus of an administration has been. It has been pure hypocrisy, pure corruption, leaving the American people abandoned. It's never been about America first. Again, we get so placated on these slogans, these catchy puns. We're not holding these politicians accountable. We're just digging in our heels on what party that we support, and we're just doubling down. That's not doing anybody any good. So if we continue to go down here, it says Americans' economic concerns, large majorities of Americans remain very concerned about the cost of healthcare, food, the consumer goods, and housing, and concern about gas prices has risen sharply. 56% now say they're concerned about this, up from 34% in January. That's over 20%. So it just ain't Democrats who concerned about this. It's Republicans. It's people who have voted for Trump 3 times, probably, that are saying, hey, look, this is going in the wrong direction. And it, if you keep scrolling down right here, it says partisan differences on economic concerns. It really ain't worried about the whole partisan shit. I don't care. I don't care. If you ask the average person, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent, about the cost. Are you concerned about the cost of healthcare, the price of food and consumer goods, the cost of housing, the cost of gasoline, the cost of electricity? I guarantee you it's not a partisan issue. It's not a partisan issue. Everybody is struggling and everybody has concern because it is impacting them financially. You don't have a choice other than being concerned. Your financial burden, unfortunately, your unfortunate financial burden that we all collectively have, average Americans, it isn't privy to a political class, or excuse me, it's not privy to a political party, but it is privy to class for sure. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys. I don't want to overload you with a lot of it, but I just think that it is so compelling coming from one of the most cherished research centers in the country. These are just facts. This isn't anything partisan. This is just facts. And I guess honestly, my other question is just to ask who is actually addressing it, not who's talking about it, who's fixing it, because there's a distinct difference in that. And, this is where I think we need to have, that uncomfortable conversation about President Trump, because Trump understood the frustration that the American people had during the campaign. I mean, he understood people were hurting. Now, does he care? No. But did he have a smidge of an understanding that people were hurting throughout the country, predominantly people who voted for him in a lot of these poor southern states? I can attest, I live in one, and that's no knock on Bama. But we Bamians deserve so much better than what we're getting from our state government. And on a broader level, the federal government. And so he knew America first, make America great again. There's a whole nother side to that. But I'm talking about the economic prosperity making people's lives better aspect of it, putting America first, our priorities, not giving all of this appropriated money, taxpayer money to foreign nations who already have universal health care for their people. You giving billions of dollars to wealthy countries that have a better living condition than the people who you are supposed to serve here in your own country. That makes absolutely no sense. And that should infuriate anybody. It's not a Democrat Republican thing. That should just make everybody upset because everybody contributes in a way in this country. And so, as I was saying, he made some very specific promises. You know, he talked about lowering grocery prices. He talked about lowering gas prices, lowering housing costs, lowering interest rates, lowering insurance costs, cutting taxes, ending war, making life more affordable. That was supposed to be America first, make America great. And that make America great again stuff, yeah, America ain't ever been great, especially for a certain section of the population. Now, for top 5, top 10% richest people, they families, they friends, it's been great. It can't get no better for them, or maybe it can, because it seems like the only priority is cutting taxes for the rich people. Constantly giving tax break incentives to large wealthy corporations instead of investing it in your people. You invested in corporations. What they do that at? United States. And so again, those messages that they worked, people voted for him because of those things. And again, I'm not criticizing the voters for necessarily believing in his message, but look who Donald Trump has always been, man. Come on. Do I need to go into detail about it? I feel like everybody knows who Donald Trump is. And you voted for this guy because you really, really thought that he was going to have your best interest. Like, I get that he was an outsider and he wasn't like your regular politician, and he's supposedly supposed to be a businessman, even though it shows otherwise, considering the bankruptcies he's been involved in throughout his business life, and I just, I don't know, man. It's crazy. But, I feel like here's where I part ways with the idea of supporting somebody means you can't question them afterward, because no, that's exactly when you need to question them. That's exactly when the questions should start. You wanted the job, you got the job, you made the promises. Now show us the results. And, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it's not healthy for us to not ask questions, to keep asking questions, because this isn't like a fan club or anything like that. This is the presidency of the United States. And, here's the other thing. I don't want us to overlook Donald Trump isn't sitting in Washington all by himself. Republicans control the House. Republicans control the Senate. Trump controls the executive branch. So when I hear Republicans campaigning about everything that's wrong with America, my question is, what are y'all doing about it? You're not the opposition party right now. You're the governing party. So fucking govern. If healthcare is broken, if you don't like Obamacare, okay, what's your plan? If housing isn't affordable, what's your plan? If people can't afford groceries, what's your plan? If Social Security needs protecting, which you guys are trying to cut, what's your plan? I guess it's to cut it. If wages aren't keeping up or keeping pace with people's lives, then what's your plan? Like, stop feeding me with the culture war bullshit. Don't give me another person to hate. Just give the American people policy. How about that? Don't tell me who's destroying America. Tell me what bill you're passing that's going to make sure the average American's life get better. How about that? Because, that's supposed to be the essence why they are elected. So let's do this really quick. Let's take a break. I want to let you guys check this awesome sponsor out of TPV, and we'll be right back after these messages. What's up, Vibers? We have an awesome sponsor for today's episode, Board and Social Company, creating custom charcuterie boards, grazing tables, and elevated spreads for events, parties, and date nights and more. Every board is handcrafted with fresh ingredients and designed to bring people together in a more fun and memorable way. You can check out their work and place an order by following them on Instagram at Board and Social Company and on Facebook at Board and Social Company. Thank you for the awesome sponsor. Check them out, guys. All right, we're back, guys. Really, check Board and Social charcuterie out. They make some of the best charcuterie boards I've ever seen. And they're reasonable, and the customer service, like I said, it's a local business. They're awesome. So again, check them out, guys. So back to this clip I wanted to show you guys. You know, I want you to listen to some of the things that these voters said, some things that they were told, some promises that they were told. Donald Trump, you know, had these campaign promises that he totally reneged on. And these are Trump voters out of the state of Ohio. Now, you know, Iowa and Ohio supposed to be like the middle of the country. You know, a lot of early voting starts in or around the presidential election. You know, Iowa and Ohio are some of the first states to have their ballots in, and they're considered to be states of, you know, middle of the country. So usually, typically, wherever you see Iowa, Ohio, states like that typically go, or where the wind seems to be blowing, if you will, that's where America is tending to go. So I wanted to show you guys this clip. It's off TikTok. Thought it was very telling, and it is about Trump campaign promises, and I'm going to share this.
I really don't understand tariffs, honestly. I just know they f***ed us up.
All we heard was drill, drill, drill during the election, and now all we're getting is drilled into the dirt with these prices.
If you could talk to President Trump directly right now, what would you tell him?
Should you want me to really say it on air? I say, F you. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to any leader, but he's disrespectful to us, and he doesn't.
Willow Wick, Ohio.
What you just heard right there, those are all former Trump voters from right here in Ohio. And right now, they're souring on President Trump.
The average American is struggling to make ends meet right now. And nobody wants to hear the war's almost over. Nobody wants to hear it's going to get better. You've had a year to make it better at this point. Make it better. Make America great again, right?
White working class voters propelled Trump to victory across the Midwest.
A vote for Trump is a vote to keep those manufacturing jobs in America and add a lot of jobs.
But for rank and file union members like Annette Dombrowski, whose factory is shutting down because manufacturing is moving to China, President Trump's campaign promises are ringing hollow.
He promised to impose tariffs that would bring back American manufacturing. How do you feel about those tariffs and how they've impacted?
Well, obviously it didn't work now, did it?
You've had a couple months to try and get a new job. What has that process been like?
Depressing. Since January, I have been applying. And it got so bad that I almost had a breakdown in March. I actually have panic attacks.
And Chris Tackett, a truck driver who voted for President Trump 3 times, says he's no longer a fan of the president.
He's backtracked on every single pitch point he had during his election. He's backtracking on. I think it was all smoke and mirrors during the second election. I think Trump is more concerned with getting even with his opponents this time around than he was looking out for the average Joe that supported him. And yeah, I'm just disappointed.
My thing is, again, people go vote for who they go vote for. You know, you can tell them that if you vote for this person, if you like sunny weather, they're going to make it rain every day. And just because that person might have an R instead of a D in front of their name, or a D instead of an R in front of their name, they'll vote against their own liking. And it's just remarkable to see, especially if you voted for that guy voted for Trump 3 times, man. And he said he understood the second go around that it was just all this was just BS. Well, why did you vote for him the third time? That's the thing. That's the stuff I'm talking about, though. And then he said that he thinks that Trump is just concerned about getting even with his enemies and all that. And yeah, that has substance. And so I get it, but also you think he might be in there because of the self-enrichment aspect of it too? Americans are getting poorer. His wealth has increased since he's been in the presidency. And I hate it. I hate it for the lady right here. Been looking for work since January. And I'm pretty sure she's a consistent voter. I'm pretty sure she is a consistent, in tune voter. But I'm gonna just keep it 100. Just because you're a consistent voter does not mean that you can't be misinformed. And I say that with all due respect because the propaganda, guys, out here is real. The propaganda out here is real. The conspiracies are real. And depending on what you get your news consumption from, it can lead you down a dark path. And that's why I'm talking about accountability. Those aren't things somebody made up after the election. Those were promises made to voters. And I'm not even asking you to take my word for it. You see the proof, You can go look, go research it yourself and just ask what was promised, what happened, what hasn't happened, and why. Because here's something politicians can count on: our short memories. We have a short attention span, and there's always another controversy, there's always another headline, there's always another enemy, another distraction. And before you know it, nobody's asking the thing we were promised 6 months ago. 6 months that went by. And the thing that we wanted to get addressed, we chased a squirrel. And 6 months that went by. A year, 2 years, 4 years, and we still stuck in square one. Don't let political theater erase the receipts. Don't let political theater erase the receipts. And this actually connects to another conversation I've been having here on the Progressive Vibe. I recently sat down with Tiffany Muller, the president of End Citizens United. Such a great conversation that I had with Miss Tiffany. Hope that she does come back on the show. We talked about Citizens United and super PACs and campaign finance, money in politics. And that conversation really stuck with me because while the average American is trying to figure out, how to make a paycheck stretch another week, there is an unbelievable amount of money flowing through our political system. And I think that's something we need to pay attention to. Here's my question. Who gets hurt? Is it the person working 2 jobs or the person writing the 6-figure check? Who's getting the meeting? Who's getting their phone call returned? Whose interests are being protected? And this isn't just a Republican issue. Money flows through both parties, which is exactly why I think campaign finance reform deserves a serious conversation, because if politicians depend on wealthy donors and powerful interests to stay in office, we shouldn't be shocked when ordinary people start wondering, who do you actually work for? And so this is where all of this, I feel, comes together. The fear, the accountability, campaign promises, money in politics, accountability, all roads eventually lead to one thing: elections. And we've got a big one coming up in November. And I want people to think about the midterms a little differently. Forget red team versus blue team for a second. Think about November as a performance review, okay? These people work for us. So how are they doing? Republicans currently have enormous governing power in Washington. So voters have every right to look at what they've done with that power and decide whether they want more of it. That's not partisan. That's literally what elections are for. And if you're a Republican listening to me right now, I'm not asking you to become a Democrat. I'm asking you to hold Republicans accountable. If you're a Democrat, hold the Democrats accountable. If you're independent, hold everybody accountable. You know what I mean? Because loyalty to a political party should never become more than the loyalty to your own community. I think that that gets lost a lot. And please, please, guys, don't just vote for somebody because Donald Trump endorsed them. Okay. Don't vote for somebody just because a Democrat endorsed them. Don't vote because somebody has an R next to their name. Don't vote because somebody has a D next to their name, or don't vote because somebody has a D next to their name. Know who you're voting for. What have they done? What do they believe? What policies do they support? And here's the question I want everybody asking. How is this going to make life better for people you represent? Because these politicians aren't applying for a job, and we're the ones doing the hiring. We're the ones doing the hiring. And, there's something else I think we need to talk about really quickly. Congress is supposed to be an independent branch of government. Members of Congress don't take an oath to Donald Trump. They don't take an oath to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. They take an oath to the Constitution. And I want representatives, Republican or Democrat, who are willing to tell a president, no. When they're wrong, just say they're wrong. It ain't hard. When somebody hurts your constituents, fight it, even when your party supports it, because that's representation. Your job isn't to protect a president from criticism. Your job isn't to make sure the president likes you. Your job is to represent the people who sent you there. And frankly, I like to see more backbone in Washington from everybody, because if your principles disappear the moment your party gets power, were they really principles? That's something worth thinking about. And this is why voting matters. I think sometimes we take democracy for granted. We assume it always will be here. But democracy requires participation. It requires accountability. It requires institutions strong enough to withstand powerful people. And it requires something that's becoming increasingly rare. People willing to say, my side can be wrong. Because if democracy only matters when your candidate wins, that's not democracy. That's winning. So there's a difference. So yes, vote in November, but don't just vote. Pay attention afterward. We have to keep the pedal to the metal. We have to keep applying pressure. Never let up. Never waver on your expectation, because election day isn't the end of our responsibility here, but it is the beginning of theirs. So again, guys, before we close, I just wanted to bring all of this back to where we started, and that's on fear. There will always be someone willing to profit from your fear. Somebody willing to tell you who to hate, somebody willing to tell you who to blame. But eventually, the rally ends, the cameras turn off, the election is over, and you still got to go home. You still got rent, you still got groceries, you still got insurance, you still got a family you're trying to take care of. So just ask yourself, who's actually trying to make that life better? Republicans have power right now, so hold them accountable for how they're using it. And if Democrats regain power, hold them accountable too. Nobody gets passed. And so before I get out of here, if today's conversation gave you something to think about, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And however you listen to TPV, share the show, send somebody an episode, send a clip, leave a comment. Again, every like, every comment, every share, it helps the Progressive Vibe podcast. And that's how we keep growing this community. And look, not everybody who comes over here is going to agree with me. And I'm totally okay with that. I don't need everybody to agree with me. I want people willing to have the conversation, because that's what this is supposed to be. Real people, real issues, real conversations. And I appreciate everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening, everyone who's helping me grow this thing. And I hope I didn't miss anything, guys. I'm Dottie. This has been the Progressive Vibe podcast. Stay informed, guys. Think for yourself. Hold these people accountable. Make your voice heard. And until next time, come vibe with us. Peace.